Welcome to Future Focus, a financial strategies podcast where we make the complex simple. This is part 2 of our conversation with the Ameritas Advanced Planning team. If you haven't had a chance to go look at part 1, you certainly should. Now let's go ahead and get into it. So let's dive back in. So I think part 1 was awesome as we talked about individuals and estate planning and how it's for everyone. We spend a lot of time talking to business owners in what we do day in and day out. Talk about the business owners that sometimes think they don't need a succession plan. And so I don't end up in the jargon jar. A succession plan is what's going to happen when I'm no longer a part of the business. In fact, sometimes we talk to folks and we ask them the question, how do you want your business to continue when you're no longer a part of it? That's an often used question that our team uses when we're talking to business owners. Like, how do you want your business to continue when you're no longer a part of it? And that usually, constitutes a deep pause, and it forces many people to think about, a lot of times for the first time, what do I want to happen with my business? So that's where we're going to focus in on estate planning and how it relates to succession planning. So we often hear about owners that say, I don't need succession planning, or I don't have a plan because they either have a partner or a trusted person that they think is going to take over. What would this group say to a business owner that actually said those words?
I guess so. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So my favorite saying is, you're going to leave I give Troy full credit. This is what he came up with. You're going to leave your business in one way or other. It's going to be either in a box or you're going to retire. But no matter what, you're going to leave your business at some point in time. Business owners, true story.
What are those, the four Ds, right?
What is death, disability, departure, and
death, divorce.
Divorce.
Death, divorce, disability. We call it disengagement, but a partner shows up or someone shows up at a business and says, "I'm out. Pay me my money. You guys can have it. I'm leaving." Right? That's the 4 Ds that we think about when a business moves on. Triggers is what we would call them. But those are what we call the 4 Ds, is what you're talking about, yeah.
But business owners have a really hard time imagining that. They think this business is my baby. I'm always going to be here. What is it going to do without me? So again, you have to get them thinking about, okay, well, it's an inevitability. We're not going to survive this. Nobody survives this. You're going to leave one way or another. So why is business planning really important for business owners? Well, we need to start thinking about what we want to happen with that business, like you said, when you're no longer there. Do you want your partners to be working with your spouse? Do you want your kids to take over? How do you want your business to be run without you? Do we want to make sure that there's no gap in our ability to run our operations? So on and so forth.
Well, even with that is, even those conversations, does the spouse or a family member like the children even want to continue the business? I mean, maybe the kids aren't in the business, or are they wanting to continue it without the parent?
Yeah. I mean, there are some times where there's we're all you're not from Nebraska. Are you from Nebraska?
I've been here a while.
I'm from Nebraska.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So we're from Nebraska. It's a farming state. And usually you find, if you have a bunch of kids, maybe not a bunch of kids, maybe 2 or 3, one child is usually really involved in the farming business that wants to take over, while the other kids may not be so involved. So we need to make sure that, okay, that one child who does want to be involved in the business actually does get the business, that it has a smooth transition for them, that they can actually have ownership, and that business operations, in this case in the farm, don't stop just because mom and dad had passed.
And so, what do you say in the cases where business owners, because the spouse one is that's the one, right? I want my business to continue, so my spouse is just going to step in. Describe that. Because I know we've all been on those calls. So what would you say to the business owner that says spouse is going to step in?
I say, have you talked about that with your spouse? I mean, a lot of spouses, they may be involved in the business, but they may not be, and they may not have plans to want to continue that or work with, if it's a business that has multiple owners, they may not want to work with those other owners. So have they had that conversation, and is that part of the succession plan for what they want to do with that business?
not just talking to your spouse, but also just talking to your business partners. Do your business partners really want to work with that spouse? They may be best friends now, but when you're no longer in the picture to mediate and to make sure everybody's playing nice, do they still want to work with them? It's a totally different animal. So.
And so, what would you, if you had to tell someone to begin the steps for succession? And by the way, we're using the word succession plan, so we should all put money into the jargon jar. It's really like a buy-sell agreement, or like what else would we call it?
An operating agreement,
shareholder agreement, buy-sell agreement. Those are all sort of things that has that
restriction of disposal of your
yeah. Like how am I going to give stuff away? What's going to happen when we decide to break up? Whatever that document is, whatever they call it, that's the document we're
however
we're
that
talking
may
about.
happen, whether
Right.
it's retirement, death, disability, like what you mentioned
Yeah.
there. Yep.
So what steps would you, or how would you begin that process, or how would you suggest maybe beginning that process if you're sitting down talking to a prospective business owner or owners?
So the first question to ask is, do they have a plan in place? If they don't have a plan in place, the second question you need to ask, which comes from what we like to call our source and six questions, which are just open-ended questions to kind of get the conversation rolling, is, again, what do you want to happen to your business in the event that you're no longer a part of it? Just to get them thinking of that. And then, if they do have something in place, we need to make sure that we review it and make sure it's still actually fitting the needs and the wants of the business owner, because things change. You could strike oil tomorrow and it will completely turn your business around. So you need to be constantly looking at those documents, even if they have a plan in place. Look at it every single year.
Well, yeah, it's like what we talked about last time. It's reviewing the plan regularly. It's not a set and forget it, do it one time and that's it. Need to constantly review to make sure it's up to date and it impacts the current situation of that business.
Absolutely.
That's interesting because I don't know why I've never sort of put the two together. Like we always talk about. We talked about in part one of this conversation about reviewing the estate plan over and over again. We're talking about how estate planning relates to the business owner, and then separately we always talk about how we should be reviewing the buy-sell agreement, shareholder agreement, whatever it may be. You said every year. From the ones that we look at, that's that's really ambitious. If they do it every 18 months to 36 months, that's really on top of it, right?
Yeah.
Because what we talk, what you hear, and I agree with having kids. The days go slow, but the years go fast.
Yes.
How you talk to a business owner, when was the last time you had your buy-sell agreement reviewed or your business valuated? They may think, I did it recently, but you look back, it could have been 5, 6, 10 years ago. Years go fast.
Like really, it's funny to go, when's the last time you looked at it? Hey, what day did we sign that? Yep, there you go. That'd be the day.
And before you know it, it's 10 years later.
Exactly.
They're like, what's that worth? Oh, it's worth 4 times that now. Oh, I better make sure that I have money in place to buy those shares back.
Exactly. Just try to take care of all those things. Okay, so that's the why we should be thinking about it and how it sort of relates estate planning and the business owner, and we want to review and all those things. Okay, so I want to change gears. Much like in part one, we talked about the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act and how it related, like how it changes the way people think about what actually is estate planning versus what it ends up, who it's actually for versus who they think it's for. So there was a case. I'm not going to say I heard there was a case. Like I know that there was a case, right? Like so we know that there was a case called Connolly. I think it was Connolly v. Connolly Commissioner v. I don't know the exact name, but most people will refer to it as Connolly. Now, again, we live in this world, so we're going to try to keep the jargon to a minimum. But Connolly was really important. Let's try to tell the people why Connolly was important, and 2, how it relates to the buy-sell, and if we can get crazy, 3, how that relates to estate planning.
May I?
So 1, Connolly, she's just excited about this. I'm just setting this up for her, right? Like, so 1, what is Connolly? So what is Connolly? 2, why it's important, in relation to buy sells or shareholders agreements or business continuation, and 3, how does that relate to estate planning?
I
You
feel
got the assignment?
I am so excited.
I feel like if we were playing basketball, you'd be throwing up that alley-oop right now.
Let's do it. So this is a conversation I really love to have. So Connolly, what is it? Connolly is a recent Supreme Court decision. It was actually decided in June of 2024, so very, very, very recently. And it impacts buy-sell agreements, not just buy-sell agreements, but entity buy-sell agreements. What is that? That's when the company itself is buying the shares back from the shareholder versus a cross-purchase agreement when the shareholders are buying the shares from each other. So how does it impact this? I want to rewind to the rule that this impacts. The rule is, when it comes to estate planning, is that when we're valuing the taxable estate, the fair market value of your assets are what's used. Fair market value being the current value of...
No, when we get the jar, that one goes in.
That's fine, you can bill me. So fair market value is pretty much what you can get on the market for the asset in that time. What is it worth today? Now, there's an exception to that rule. There's many exceptions to it, but one of the exceptions is having a valid buy-sell agreement. What is a valid buy-sell agreement? Well, it's a bona fide business transaction. What does that mean? It essentially means that you have a good business purpose for doing this. Being a buy-sell agreement pretty much is the definition of that. Second, and this one's going to be a rough one, but staying with me, I will translate. It cannot be used as a testamentary transfer for less than full and adequate consideration between family members. Translation,
It's too many words.
don't give your family a discount. Number 3.
Oh, I get that.
There you go.
That's actually really good. Don't give your family a discount. It needs to be like this is what it costs. This is what you're going to get. You don't get the hometown discount.
Nope.
And to me, for a business owner, most business owners, they are putting a lot of their time, effort, and dollars back into their business. They may not be saving for retirement in a lot of different areas. I mean, a lot of their net worth may be their business. So from a business owner perspective, it probably makes a lot of sense not to give that family discount, because that's what they may be looking to use to fund their retirement.
Oh, absolutely. Now, number 3, it has to be an agreement that can be reached at in an arm's length transaction. Translation, don't give your friends discounts either. No family discounts, no friend discounts. Finally, 4, it has to be binding during life and after death. Well, that's number 4. There are 5 things. What does that mean? It means if you have an agreement in place, you need to abide by it. You can't just put it and set it and forget it and never follow the terms of it. Finally, number 5, there must be a fixed and determinable price, as in the court must be able to look at your buy-sell agreement and figure out what your company is worth without talking to the people who signed it. Right? So, Connolly.
So I'm gonna try to spit that back to you.
Okay.
So 1 is the bona fide agreement, right?
Business purpose.
Bona fide. Okay, the bona fide business purpose. So and you said that the buy sell agreement is generally considered a business purpose. I want to be able to I've thought about ahead of time to be able to pass my business at so I can, like Jacob talked about, get the value for my business when either when I decide to sell it or sell it by these terms, or if I pass away and the people that I love and care about are going to end up benefiting from the sale of the business.
Yeah, essentially you have a legitimate business purpose. You're not just doing this because it benefits you. It's something that needs to be done for the business.
Okay, that's 1. 2 is no hometown discounts for family.
Correct.
3 is no hometown discounts for friends.
Correct.
4 is, what was 4?
Has to be binding during life and after death.
So we sign it, an agreement's agreement. Like we're not just going to wash our hands of it when you pass away. Mm-hmm. Okay, and 5 is?
Fixed and determinable price.
I just need to be able to look at it and go, you said it's worth this much, like this many shares times this, and that was determined in some reasonable manner. And that's and that's the cost of the business.
Now, I do want to qualify that. So you can't just say my business is worth $2 million.
Okay.
Because it needs to be the fair market value or the exception to that value as of the date of death.
Okay.
So when we're talking about a fixed and determinable price, we're talking about like a formula or a calculation, or we agreed to get an appraiser that's going to appraise this using this method, or that's going to take these factors into consideration. Something that I can take and go, okay, that's the value. So it can be something as simple as your value is the previous 12 months gross receipts, aka the money you got in from your sales or whatever practice you're doing, divided by the total number of shares outstanding. That's an acceptable formula that makes it fixed and determinable. Saying it's worth $4 million today, not good enough.
Okay, so we can't just stick our finger in our mouth and hold it up to the wind and go, feels like $4 million.
Correct.
Okay, all right, got it.
So those are the rules. Connolly, two brothers, ignored all of those rules. Everything. It's like a case of bad facts. They just did absolutely everything wrong. So they had an agreement, right? And in this agreement, it said, okay, we agree to a price every year. That's an agreement to agree is no agreement at all. That's just saying we'll figure it out when we get to it. That's not really making your buy-sell agreement binding. Backup was if they couldn't agree or didn't agree, every year they were supposed to agree. If they didn't do that, they were going to go get an appraiser. And the appraiser would be the one to figure out the value of the company. Cool. Well, brother number one, Michael, he dies. Thomas goes, oh, well, we never agreed on a price and I never got an appraiser. I think it's worth about $3 million. How much we got in life insurance proceeds to fund this agreement? About $3 million. I think that's good. The IRS stepped in and went, whoa, no, that's not how this works. You need to get an actual appraisal. And it only was till 9 months after Michael's death that they actually started getting an appraisal for this company.
And if I remember correct, they weren't very far off.
No, they weren't. They were pretty close.
The number wasn't very far off.
But valuation is an art, not a science. So you can pretty much, I don't want to say manipulate those numbers because that's not correct. You have a lot of discretion when it comes to what is used in that calculation. So not only that, but before we even had the appraisal, Thomas goes to his nephew, which happens to literally, his name is actually Michael Jr. And they decide, $3 million sounds good, right? Yeah, $3 million sounds great, Uncle Tommy. That works for me. And again, the IRS steps in and goes, yeah, that's not cool. We're not going to do that. So the court's like, okay, you didn't respect this during life and during death. You didn't give me a fixed and determinable price. You could be giving your family a discount, sure, but I mean, it was pretty close, so we're not going to worry about that. It's not a friend issue, and it is a bona fide agreement. So our two issues are, one, it was not binding during life and after death. They didn't follow the agreement whatsoever until the IRS started poking their nose in. Mm-hmm. And two, that they didn't have a fixed and determinable price. Okay, so what happens? Well, we'll use the fair market value of whatever the business is. We'll get an appraisal, that'll be great. Okay, well, that's what the rule is, so what does the case do? What does the case change anything? The case doesn't change the rule. The case just imposes what the consequence is. Before, there was no consequence. And this is kind of why business owners don't ever deal with buy-sell succession at all, because they can just blow off their agreement. They can just ignore it completely, and there's no consequence. They'll just use whatever they figured out. So the IRS ended up taking this case and using them as an example, and you never want to be used as an example. And the court
never
ended up
want your name in the title of the case.
Never.
That usually doesn't work out well.
No, not at all. So what the court ended up doing, they're like, okay, you don't fall in this exception where the fair market value is, well, you're using something other than the fair market value. You don't have a valid buy-sell agreement. So we're going to figure out what the fair market value is. And before this case, that would be like, okay, you have all these assets, we're going to value them, you have these liabilities, we're going to offset them. But when we fund these type of agreements, we tend to use life insurance because you don't want to liquidate assets, liquidate as and sell them in your company, right? It's going to cost you a lot of money.
That's estate equalization.
To me, it gives you
that's liquidity, right?
Yeah, that life insurance death benefit gives you those funds to be able to, complete the purchase agreement, the buy-sell agreement, without having to sell other things and divide assets that may be illiquid or hard to divide. Yeah.
Not just that, that's a lot of assets that you'd have to liquidate because keep in mind, you're trying to buy the business back. In this case, it was a 77% ownership stake. That's going to cost you a lot of money. If your business were to liquidate 77% of its assets in order to do this buy-sell agreement, you won't have a business.
A little difficult.
A little difficult. So usually when we do these valuations, we go, okay, we have all this insurance money. Awesome. That's an asset. And again, I hate to do the jargon, but it is an accounting thing. Assets and liabilities, right?
Going in.
Okay. So you have assets, right? You have all this money here. You have this life insurance proceeds from the death. Then you also have this liability, this buy-sell agreement. They have the obligation to buy these shares in the event that Thomas does not. And Thomas never planned on buying these shares. So the company has to do it. So the company comes in and the estate comes in and argues, well, like all previous case law, we have this asset and this equal offsetting liability. Put them together, we have zero. So it's going to add nothing to our fair market value. But the court goes, well, actually, that's not going to happen here. We're going to include the value of the death benefit in the value of the company. Now, why is that a big deal? Again, they're buying 77% of this company. So if we're increasing that valuation by 77%, now it's 177% is the value of the company, not just 100%. That's a lot. And that's just the valuation for the tax. That's not how much money that Michael's estate actually received. He received what it was worth. He didn't receive 177% of that.
Right. To me, for someone, then we talked about last time for, the lifetime exemption amount. Yeah, it's 13.9 million per person for this year. Then it potentially drop into 7 million. But for someone that's in a high net worth, their net worth is above the exemption amount. That definitely bringing that amount up, and now you're really starting to inflate what that estate tax potential liability may be.
And I think that's the word, and inflate. Like I think what Connolly did is it's inflated it inflated values and numbers that previously we didn't think about.
Oh yeah, and you know what the consequence is when you have a taxable estate? What's the tax rate?
Jumps to 40% pretty quick.
40%.
Well, 40% after the first million, right?
$1 million.
Yep.
Yeah, 40%. So he was pushed into a taxable estate. He had a taxable estate already. So 40% of, let's see, it would be about, I think it was like 3.86 million is what he received, but he was taxed at 177% of that. That is not a small bill to have. So what does Connolly do? Connolly says, okay, well, the rules are the same. The name of the game is still the same. But now there's a consequence. If you do not follow your buy-sell agreement, you don't have a valid one, you're not setting that fixed and terminable price, hitting our 5-star checklist, well, then we're going to punish you. And we're going to punish you by making you include the value of the life insurance proceeds in the value of your estate.
Yeah. So to me, all of that, to me, the way to summarize it up, I feel like it's proper planning. And it's regular planning. It's if you didn't plan yesterday, plan today, and then review that on a consistent basis to make sure you're in line with what all the requirements need to be.
Oh yeah, because think about what the brothers did wrong. First of all, they never had, they first set an agreement to agree, which is no agreement at all. But let's say it was an agreement. They never met and talked about it.
Never did it. They never followed up on it.
Never once.
That's probably the overriding. You are right. That's probably the overriding theme, which is plan it, like think about it, plan it, follow up, continue to plan.
Oh, but the best part is they had a plan B. If they didn't get together and agree, they were going to get an appraiser. But they never did that either.
Never got the appraiser. So they could have. I guess it's all happenstance, and we don't know. But they probably could have avoided it if they got the appraiser and the business is worth this.
Yeah. And
that's probably with a lot of problems. It can be avoided. You just need to follow through with the planning steps, and it all starts with having those conversations.
So it's really, really, really easy to avoid the consequence of Connolly. We can avoid this by having a valid buy-sell agreement in the first place. We hit all of our 5 checklists, that bona fide, no discounts to family and friends, we abide by it at all times, life and death, and we have that fixed and determinable price. If we abide by that, well then Connolly doesn't apply to us. They're going to respect our buy-sell agreement, and we're going to be able to use something other than what's considered the fair market value when we determine what that tax is. And that can be significantly different as long as it's reasonable at the time that you executed the agreement. Reasonable being an average person of reasonable and prudent intelligence.
I wasn't going to put you in the jargon jar for reasonable. I wasn't going to get jargon jar for a reasonable. All right, last question, because that's a lot of law school sounding stuff.
Sorry.
So, no, it's all right though, because we needed to talk about it.
That's probably why you like having me at this table. Help have someone without that law school background to help.
There you go.
Some regular words, right?
Some regular words. Some like dollar words, not them $5 words.
That's right. When I play Scrabble, it's usually those 3 and 4 letter words that I'm good at.
Oh no, you throw around some big ones too.
Okay, so just as we think about Connolly, and the reason why I wanted to talk about Connolly because it just dominated the second half of 2024, where everyone was sky is falling, Connolly, and it on its face it did change quite a bit. as the way we thought about like buy-sell agreements, business continuation. But for the average, for the average business owner, again, I'm not even thinking about someone that's pressing up against any sort of exemption limit or anything like that. For the average business owner, what can they take from, and maybe we've already talked about it, and it's okay to sort of reiterate those things. What can the average business owner take away from Connolly and what it does going forward?
I can go for it.
Yeah.
So, what should they take away? First of all, we need to have a buy-sell agreement in place. Even if you don't think you're going to have a taxable estate, it's not just about that. It's about planning for your business and making sure your needs are met. And outside of that, if you're doing an entity purchase agreement, you need to know how much your company is worth so you can be prepared to make that purchase when the time comes. But not just that, we need to be constantly not just abiding by the agreement, but also checking it. Our business evolves over time. Like I said, your business can strike oil tomorrow or invent some new technology that changes the world, and that'll completely change how we want our buy-sell agreement to operate. Or maybe you add a new shareholder. Regardless, you need to have some kind of plan in place, and you need to review it periodically. My suggestion is always going to be at least annually, but I know that's not possible for a lot of people, especially business owners who tend to be very busy. But at least semi-annually, once every 5 years, but I would prefer more than that if you could.
So regularly, periodically, whatever frequency that may be that fits into people's schedules.
Maybe not put in like a specific year, but if something changes in your business, a new shareholder, or if you have like a lot of success one year that you're like, wow, we just killed it this year, then you might want to go back to your buy-sell agreement and look at it.
Yeah, life happens, no different than personal planning. Let's say a family member joins the business, or you have that key employee that may want to eventually take over the business or that business is growing, either number of employees or profit. So, yeah, I agree.
All right, I was going to say, I was thinking about it's doing it early, doing it often, doing it early, following up as often as feasible, but certainly having those conversations when everything's good, going back to families fight, to bring the conversation full circle from part one into part two. Since families fight, let's make these decisions. Or make these decisions when everyone's sort of happy with one another, while we love each other. Because if we wait until there's money on the line and we don't love each other as much anymore, that's usually a recipe for problems, even beyond the things like Connolly. So
I would say have all the conversations. It's not just the conversations between the business owners. It's the conversation between spouses, or the business owner and their children if they have children or key employees. So you can't just have one conversation and skip two or three. Right. So if there's multiple conversations that need to be had, making sure you're having it with all parties to make sure that there is planning in place.
Now, I would be remiss if I didn't also throw out there, if the argument with the family and friends is not enough to persuade you to get a business plan put in place, let me tell you, if you do nothing at all, your business interest will go to probate, and it'll be tied up for a very long time, and you will not be able to make any decisions for your business in that period of time. Right. If you want your business to continue on without you, whether it goes to your family, to your friends, to your business partners, you need to have a plan in place so that they can smooth that transition over and make sure that the decisions in your business can keep going.
We'll say this, it's not the time to emulate an ostrich. Like, we don't want to bury our head in the sand. So
something's going to have to be done with it. So would you rather be your wishes or someone else's wishes?
Absolutely.
So what do you say, the unintended beneficiary? Uncle Sam?
Uncle Sam, the unintended beneficiary. That's where you talk about that around the office. If you don't plan, if you don't think about what you want to do, how you want to do it, and go through a little bit of that uncomfortable conversations and feelings, you're going to have an unintended heir, and his name is Uncle Sam. Mm-hmm. So, with that, hey, thanks. This has been awesome. This is hopefully we weren't too complex. Hopefully we were able to take some things and make it simple for folks. I'm Troy Branch with Keely Joe French, Jacob Messick. This has been Future Focus, a financial strategies podcast. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.